Welcome to the Getting High on Leadership series featuring Paul Karasik. Paul is one of America's top management consultants helping leaders succeed. He is the author of 9 books, including Sweet Persuasion and Brilliant Thoughts and Provocative Questions. His insights appear regularly in major publications, and he is one of the most sought-after executive coaches. Paul founded the American Seminar Leaders Association and the Psychedelic Institute of Los Angeles. He is a popular speaker at national conferences and has been on stages across all 50 states and internationally. Paul's work addresses the question, how can we transform conflict in business into collaboration? With decades of experience in management, leadership, and psychedelics, he brings a unique perspective on personal and societal growth. In this series, we'll be discussing his latest book, Getting High on Leadership, The Leader's Guide to Higher Consciousness. We'll be exploring the concepts, techniques, and mindset required to revolutionize leadership. Enjoy. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Getting High on Leadership series featuring Paul Karasik. And my name is Rob Sanchez from Apartment 113, and we'll be discussing the diamond. Paul, welcome, man. What do you think about the diamond in this chapter?
It's such an important chapter. It's a story, Rob. The chapter, and
it takes a little turn from the poetry format.
And these stories are kind of embedded throughout. We learn through story, we communicate through story, and so I felt it was important to kind of bring that modality into the book. The diamond has a very important message. I don't want to do a big reveal on the story because I think it's fun to read and it might reduce the impact, but I want to talk about the real story, the real meaning, the real essence of that particular chapter. And that's the looking and the seeking. When we look for, the title of this book is called Getting High on Leadership, A Leader's Guide to Higher Consciousness. And we've already established that consciousness precedes all results.
Right, that is the goal, and I think that's the underlying kind of core to many of these chapters and throughout the book.
That's right. That consciousness rules. We can only manifest to the degree of our consciousness, our vision, our idea, our concept. We can only manifest in that sense when we're connected to that particular consciousness. And so the problem with most people is they begin to look for those solutions to consciousness outside themselves. And let me give you some examples. Religion, gurus, teachers, systems, all that stuff are created by the ego. The ego is the antithesis of consciousness. It's consciousness, but it is consciousness in its most confined form. Unbridled consciousness envelops everything. And so, if that's true, then where are the solutions? The solutions are inside.
Within that universal consciousness, not within these outlets or these deposits of ego.
Yeah, it's beyond the ego, and that's a recurring message, and we're going to hit it a lot in these conversations of the dissolving, the pulling back, the recognition of the ego in conversations. I'll give you an example. We talk about sales and marketing, and you're involved with all that. And the truth is that when you're selling, the best way to sell is not to sell. We talked a little bit about this. The best way to sell is to see in the other person their consciousness, which is the same as your consciousness. And not to treat the other person as an other, but actually as me. So how can I do anything wrong to you if I see you as me?
gets a lot harder. I think people might figure it out, but it definitely pulls you in that direction then, to
Of
approach
thinking
in
you
that
as
way. Yeah.
yeah, you're a colleague, you're a partner. You're not an other that I have to get over on to get what I want,
Yes.
right? And I'm not going off topic here, but that element rolls into this whole conversation about
It
where are
does.
the
Yeah.
answers? Because that's the core of this chapter. Where are the answers?
Right. Where the ego filled approach would be to open you up right now with exactly what I'm selling, give you the pitch, and pull out the business card while I'm talking. Right.
Exactly. And not say, wait a minute. What is this person about? What are they?
Yeah.
What's their motivation? What's their goals? What's their vision? I have my vision: sell some stuff or make a connection or whatever it is. What's their vision? Because it's in that collaboration that real clients come in, that real productive relationships come in. When we put all that stuff down and we go to source, and
Right.
source is
Within that connection.
consciousness, that connection that's beyond the ego. And however we want to get there, it doesn't matter, but we have to first, and actually the way to get there is to be alert to those patterns that are so embedded in us of getting offended, getting hurt, protecting our space, taking a position and not moving. All that stuff is ego. All that stuff shatters results. That all destroys results of sales, of team building, of whatever it is you're going for. All that stuff is killing you.
Throw
So,
them to the wayside when the ego's too strong there.
well,
Yeah. So that.
you're just pushing your agenda, and there's no relationship there.
Yes,
And
yeah, and then the leader would have to maintain this kind of for themselves, but also help others or encourage them to see it as well. You kind of have two tasks from the
and
leadership
what's
side of
interesting,
this.
yeah, exactly right. You know what's interesting about it is that you don't have to do anything but yourself, and connect to that diamond, and connect to that solution space. Now, let's be clear. I'm not talking about technical solutions here, right? I'm talking about getting up in the morning and saying, I've got to get stuff done. I'm a leader. And approaching it from a whole different point of view. And that's collaborative. And that's letting the ego take a lesser position. But when you're looking for solutions, imagine getting access to universal consciousness, the source of all consciousness, the source of all wisdom, the source of all solutions, the source of all solutions that are not ego-based on a daily basis, right? That's the
There's a lot
diamond.
to be had there.
That's the diamond, right? And now I meet with you and I say, well, how can Rob help my career? How can Rob help this initiative that I've got going? No, it's like, how can I help Rob? And let's see where it
Right,
goes from
actually
there.
considering the people that you're facing, whether it be in this context or, walking around the trade show or running your own business or family, having that awareness of that universal consciousness and that, that I am you kind of mentality
Right.
definitely smooths the water across many initial conflicts that could come up. Some office politics and things like that have
Yeah.
a way of getting entrenched that could almost dissipate entirely with enough of that kind of thinking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A friend of mine is going through a tough time in his business. He owns a large business, and he's going through things, and the company's reorganizing, they're firing people, all this kind of stuff. And it's interesting to watch that process, to observe it and to say, what's the best outcome for him? And the best outcome is to be in that universal consciousness, to be in that higher level of consciousness. I mean, the guy who's in a position to kind of screw him, I mean, to use kind of blatant, to see that
Yes.
person not as an other, and this obviously kind of, you know, rough behavior that they're implementing, and say, let me understand that person. Let me understand they're coming from fear, from greed, from whatever it is, and that's why they're doing this. And in fact, I've acted that way at some point.
It's easy to slip into that, isn't it?
Well, to say, yeah, they're a bad person, they're trying to get over on me, I got to fight them. What if we got rid of fight and we just said, let me understand, and
Right.
let me just get to that diamond. Let me observe this from that point of view and say, wait a minute, he's no different than me. I've screwed people over, like, I've, or been snaky or whatever it is, whatever I'm accusing that person, or just thinking of myself and not caring about all the people we're firing. I've done
Yeah.
things like that too,
That's
so that person's not the
tough.
other. I'm bringing consciousness to that situation. He said, well, what do you think? He's a dear friend of mine. He said, what do you think I should do to this, with this situation? And I said, you should understand, and you should find that place of understanding. And if any good solution is going to come out for you, it's going to come through that.
Yes. Yeah, that is a solid approach when it comes to that kind of office turmoil and organizational fallout. There, you've got to turn to that consciousness early and use it to stay steady and also to build kind of your next steps. Right, rely on that for the solution as the cause for
100%.
problem.
Yeah, 100,
Yeah,
100%.
and
And
I've definitely seen workplaces where the leaders fall into that purely ego kind of seat where they
mm-hmm,
don't consider that consciousness at all. And sometimes I see it as maybe that was necessary for a moment. And so I don't know if leadership has any kind of tug and pull happening between times where you
mm-hmm,
sometimes need to have that ego and you just need to know how to wield it in the appropriate times. Is that
mm-hmm.
the case, or would you see that there's really no need for that as a leader?
I don't think there is a need. No.
It's always better to go that
Yeah.
consciousness route and consider everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, everything's going to work out much better.
Yes. Yeah. I think in the scenarios I was thinking there were like financial factors or timeline that made it so that certain leaders had to just really make decisions, and even if they
Mhm.
did want to be conscious in those decisions, you know, they had to make them. So I don't. Maybe that's a different
Mhm.
topic altogether in making decisions that you are aware will hurt that person.
Yeah, it comes down to where's the conflict in the leader. And the
Hmm.
conflict in the leader is very simple. We know, and we've experienced higher consciousness. Every human being has, as children, as infants. We live in higher consciousness. It's our existence, and then we get to identify with some personality trait, and we lose it, and we begin to think that that's who we are, but we're not.
We get that imprint, to borrow a term from the what was it, Robert Anton, I think, and Timothy Leary have a theory on consciousness that as you age, you get imprints at certain circuits that
Yeah,
kind of affect your ability to be aware of that universal consciousness and kind of shape who you are.
the conflict in the leader is always, this is the core of the conflict of the leader, is the conscious leader I'm talking about. You see a certain truth, I'm you, you're me. The person that reports to me is equal to me. They're doing a technical thing that's different than me in this situation, maybe getting paid differently, but they're identical to me. And where conflict begins and ends for the leader is very simple. We are brought into this life to have a purpose. And that purpose is to express that higher consciousness. That's our purpose. You can give it a lot of names. Some might call it unconditional love. But the truth is, that's why we're here. Nothing else makes sense, which is to evolve out of that ego-centered personality into that conscious and act from that conscious level. And so what happens to the leader is they know at a point that money isn't everything, that there's more to life than that. They've created that success and now feel empty. Not only feel empty, but they also feel conflicted. Why do they feel conflicted? Because they know in their heart, as we all know, that you're me and I'm you. And so every time I talk in my business or whatever I'm leading that role, and I ignore the fact of my mission, my purpose of being alive, and that's to be an expression of that higher consciousness, we go into conflict. And that's what happens. And that's what I see going on, that there's this, I know who I am, but I'm not acting like that.
Yes, trying to be blissfully ignorant of that and acting a different way. It comes back to it, or it will eventually build up and create that conflict.
There's a cognitive dissonance, right? This is the way it is, and this is what's happening, and now you're in constant conflict. So this looking, which is what the chapter is about, brings us back to, don't look at, when you're in conflict, you have to examine that. And we can transform business and we can transform organizations. There's no doubt about that. And companies are doing that. You see it. There's a little coffee shop where I live here in Studio City. And the vibe is so good. The consciousness is so good at this coffee shop that there's a line with 10 or 20 people almost the whole time they're open, from morning till evening. People wait 20 minutes to get a latte. In Starbucks, you wait 60 seconds on average.
Yeah, they're doing something right to keep those
They're doing
lines long.
They're doing something right, and everybody walks over with a big smile. Is everything okay? Every server, how you doing today? There's consciousness there, and it creates this lucrative environment, and that's the message of this chapter. Is seek the diamond within you first, and then in all of your interactions, all of your relationships, the best possible outcome, the most productivity, the most collegiality, the most support will all come from that. Seek consciousness in every situation, where the real solutions are, that not the old ones that you've been doing for years, but new ones, new opportunities, new connections. And that's all in the unknown.
Yeah, thank you for the conversation here, and hope you guys can follow along in the book. Definitely start looking within, tap into that diamond of consciousness, and help others to realize the same thing, to build those teams and create that perspective needed for a higher level of leadership. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Getting High on Leadership series. If you have any questions, you can comment below or send them in via email to paul@paulkarasik.com. Follow him on Instagram at PK_the conversation. Find out more at wholesalerinstitute.com and psychedelic-awakening.com. To get the most out of this series, find the ebook link below and read along with us. The Getting High on Leadership series is produced by Rob Sanchez and Apartment 113, which can be found at apartment113.com and followed on Instagram at APT_113.